listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM. And also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you, when you're doing yard work, safety matters. If you use a ladder, be aware of overhead electric lines, including the service wire that runs to your house. Even wooden ladders can conduct electricity with dangerous results. And be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a swimming pool, and you're working with skimmers, brooms, or other long-handled tools. Central Hudson wishes you a safe summer.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Jackie Levezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support the Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Fred Costello is alongside of me here in the studio, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Lawrence.
This is the Kingston Community Radio live talk radio show. We're broadcasting live from 16 Lucas Avenue right here in Kingston, New York. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you on this Wednesday morning, anything that may be on your mind, any questions, any concerns. We got a couple of great guests this morning here, both that'll be here in the studio. Chief Tinti from the city of Tinti from the city of Kingston will be joining us at 7:30 to 8:30.
He'll probably want to talk about there's a new county program, kind of part of the reinvention of police that they announced yesterday. Sheriff Figueroa, our chief, is there. Chief Tinti, I think Matricia knows chiefs from most of the agencies across the county, and a new collaborative effort to kind of, like the Intimate Partners program, intercept folks that seem to be leaning towards a dangerous path or a path that could lead to...
And also the camera system that got approved last week by the Common Council.
Oh, he'll be excited about that. Yeah, I didn't even know about that.
I think 39 cameras throughout bad spots in Kingston. I don't know when they plan to install them. I know the upkeep for taxpayers, though, is between $15,000 and $20,000 a year, but that's going to keep the crime down.
But our experience with cameras...
That's hard to believe. We're not experienced that. We have 57.
Do you really?
Throughout the complex, and that's including the interior of the ice arena. But let me tell you something. They are just so valuable.
I bet.
Including last night.
Well, and the Common Council approved it. I think it was like 14 to 4. I mean, it was a no-brainer. So
you talk about a coincidence, huh?
Yeah, it's ironic to have that conversation this morning. But yeah, they're terrific. They provide so much intelligence and resources to law enforcement, and it's one of the first.
I think the camera, though, you see, they're out on the streets or whatever. It's going to keep the common criminal. He's going to see the camera and maybe not commit a crime now.
Right. Or maybe he's too dumb not to know that there's a camera there. He's
caught, or he's not going to do it. So it's a win-win for the taxpayer.
Exactly.
Freddie and I are cracking up in here because we had an incident just last night, which we can't go into detail, but
but
it's just quite a coincidence.
But the camera one is basically what you're saying.
It's quite a coincidence you brought that up.
And but going back over years.
Oh yes.
There's been how many occasions where we were able to seek restitution from people who committed violence or just painted over things unnecessarily and foolishly. So they've been a tremendous asset for us, and going forward, I imagine they'll be beneficial to Kingston, especially helping them to get under control some of the neighborhood things that are happening where neighbors are afraid to perhaps talk about a neighbor who's doing bad things. So if they have a camera they can rely upon, it's independent and it's not a camera from someone's house where if I had a camera at my house and you were doing something wrong and I shared it and you are charged with that crime, you're going to know that I gave my camera, so you're going to be mad at me. Now, with the cameras owned by the city government, it's just the government doing it, and there's no neighbor-on-neighbor disputing, so I think it'll help them quite a bit gather the intelligence to help suppress some of the unnecessarily violence that's happened over the past year and a half.
So that's good. Yeah, that's I didn't know that was approved either. So he's going to be happy about that. And then at 8:30 we have State Senator Michelle Hinchey, who is coming to the studio.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she'll be coming to the studio, and so we got a nice lineup here this morning.
Perfect.
Another great evening. Obviously, I'm from Sorgeties. I'm a little prejudiced towards Sorgeties.
Nice.
But what a great evening.
Yeah.
Several thousand fans at the Stallions game last evening for the first responders. That was just so great to see.
Chief told me they gave away almost 400 toys.
Almost 400 toys.
That's pretty incredible.
Well, I gave him 500 wristbands out of the ice arena, so pretty close.
Pretty close, right?
Yeah.
What a night, though, Greg, because, the highlight was the first responders baseball game, and there was so many stakeholders that made that possible. Alcon's organization, Children's First Responders, CSX, Bob and Larry from Sawyer Motors, and on and on and on. I know I'm forgetting some, but what a tremendous night.
On that banner, over 15, maybe 20 different sponsors.
Pretty amazing, right?
Amazing. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So for first responders who went, whether you're a nurse, a volunteer firefighter, an EMT, the whole night was free. And there was some really nice giveaways. Pretty incredible.
And the county sponsored the fireworks, which I found out then were donated by, I believe, Legion Fireworks, or somebody paid for the fireworks that Legion Fireworks sponsored.
I actually spoke to the gentleman from Legion. Nice man.
So did I. I spoke to both of them. Yeah.
Nice folks. So, yeah. It was a super exciting thing to be part of, and what a great turnout. Great.
Yeah, and what a great game they played, too. I think it ended up 14. It was a stopper. It ended up 14-2.
Nice to even see him play a game. Their schedule's been so compromised with all the rain.
Oh, 9 home games.
Wow.
He's lost 9 home games.
That's a lot.
I believe it. Or maybe it's 9 total between, it can't be 9 home. No way. No, it's probably 9 total.
I know some of the makeup games were lost.
Yeah, and then the league decided that there was just no way, because you're coming to the end of the year, and the fact that these teams play just about every single day, like normally this year the Stallions were off on Monday. Mm-hmm. Every other day of the week they're playing, either at home or on the road. And it's very, very similar to all the other teams in the league, and they just don't have that kind of pitching to be playing 3 double headers in a row or something like that. And that's the last thing you want is a D1 player going back to school with an injury.
Yeah. Great group of kids again, though.
Oh yeah,
it's fun to get to know some of them. They're really polite, talented, gifted young folks, and as they've spent a little time here now, you kind of see their personalities come out, and boy, what a treat to have them all around.
It is, and they're gonna make the playoffs, and there's a very, very good possibility we'll have our first home playoff game.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that would be great. And this weekend we have the Legion, right?
Legion State Tournament that kicks off Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Quite ironic. Sorgeties is automatically in it, but they
have a good team.
But they won their districts to get into it. And Kingston did likewise. Yep. So both Sorgeties and Kingston are in it. That ought to draw some really nice crowds.
Some local fans.
I don't have the list. I will at 3 o'clock this afternoon of the others. I know there were still 2 of them, I believe, that we're still waiting.
They hadn't been resolved yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So that should be It's an honor for us to host that.
It is.
Fun.
It is. Very first time. First time in the eastern part of New York State. The furthest east it's ever been is Utica, traditionally Buffalo and Syracuse.
We're on the team. Last weekend was a big weekend for softball. The girls, they had their tournament.
College exposure
Yep.
showcase.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a Friday morning, it was already packed.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, I pulled in and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm like, I couldn't believe it was all for the college exposure, but terrific.
Yeah, well,
And,
Friday
the weather
was
hurt them a little bit.
Friday was their clinic day. They started Thursday at 4:00, went into Thursday evening, all day Friday up until 4, and then the game started at 5.
It was great.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they lost Sunday, but it was just so much water, and just approaching 11 inches since a week ago Thursday.
It seems silly to say.
Yeah. It's at,
So we were talking about first responders and what an incredible event that was. But last night was filled with events, and I managed to make most of them. They did an unveiling at the pavilion on Esopus Bend. It was named after Susan Bolitzer. Susan was one of the charter founders of the Esopus Bend organization, and there was a pavilion put up about 4 or 5 years ago. And that pavilion's become kind of a picnic center and an educational center. All the elementary schools go there and they do kind of a nature walk, a nature hike. They document what kind of trees are there, what kind of wildlife they see, and they take measurements of trees. So it's amazing how that has kind of just evolved into a center for so many activities. And they dedicated that pavilion to her. Nice. And it was really fun to be there, and a lot of the original folks that were part of creating that were there, so that was really great. And something that's a little bit under celebrated was Tom Struzera. He played a huge component. That was established all the way back when HITS first came to Saugerties, and as part of his planning process, he had to offset some wetland disturbance that he was doing.
Some reciprocal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he preserved, financially, he made a huge contribution that allowed that land to be purchased and preserved. So really nice to be there. Great to hear the tales are there. Your brother's been a huge component of that, Steve.
You really embrace that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it looks great, even despite the weather. The trails are open. The meadows were mowed. It's really pretty incredible. And it's all volunteer. So that was fun to be at. And then, in addition to that, there was a dedication of Habitat for Humanity House.
Oh.
Yep. In Glasgow Ponds, there was this is the third Habitat house in the past couple of years. And a lot of the same volunteers were there, same banks who sponsored. And another really uplifting, heartwarming story of a family who helps participate in the construction of that home. They work with those banks to get a financial commitment that's affordable, and that family's going to be there for 10 years at a minimum. And at the end of that, the equity transfers all to them. If something were to go wrong in between, they have to pay back part of that equity. But if they stay there for the time that they have agreed to, they will become the full owners of that home. So, brand new, nice family, great story all the way around. So it was really nice to celebrate that too. So, very, very active night last night.
Well, you were jumping all around.
All over the place. It was super. It was a really special night. But that's Saugerties. There's always 10 things to do at once.
One announcement you want to?
Yeah, we can read it. A call to honor the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier replica. Ooh. Pictured is a 50% detailed replica of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the 3 crypts that hold the remains of unknown soldiers from World War I, World War II, and the Korean War, and now the empty crypt of the Vietnam War. This replica of the most hallowed ground in America will be on display in your area at a location, dates, and times as indicated below. Please come and see this powerful moving exhibit. This will be at the VFW Post 1386 on the bypass in Kingston. It will be here on August 6th, 7th, and 8th, and the times where this can be visited are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. There will be an opening ceremony at noon on August 6th to include a rifle salute and playing of taps. The memorial will be open to the public and free of admission. So, wow, I didn't know about this. Pretty exciting project.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either.
That's I've seen that twice, the transition of the guards at the Arlington Cemetery, and it's really it's a pretty special thing to see. We took the kids. My daughter was dancing, and one of the performances they did was in D.C. So we had a group of probably 16 or 17 young children who we weren't sure were going to appreciate it or not, and you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Yep. They looked at it in awe, and then later on, you could tell their minds were working because they were coming up with questions. And it felt like a tour guide that day, but it was great, and it was really exciting to be part of it with them. So.
And you had mentioned Tom Struzzari and Hits. Their opening day of their summer series is today.
Yeah. It was nice to see the horses coming back.
3 weeks. Yeah, several individuals in their horse attire in Stewart's this morning. And you can notice, I can obviously come down Mike Kraut Road, Washington Avenue, and the difference with traffic.
Yeah, you do, because there's a bump up. But there too, how exciting is that? Bruce Springsteen's daughter, she competed. Yep. You saw her ride many times.
Yeah, I had conversation with Bruce over at Hits now quite a number of years ago. Had to be a dozen years or so ago. And,
awesome. And now she's off representing the country in the U.S. Olympics.
Yeah, that's that is awesome.
Yeah. She won't be with us this summer now, though. She'll be back for the Grand Prix, I imagine. Because the Olympics is only a couple weeks.
Yeah, so. I'm sure she will be. And I'm just trying to think. I think she was there. I don't know if she was there last year or not. Because, last year with the pandemic, everything was more downsized. Yeah. I mean, he still held it. But I'm sure she will be back.
I imagine she'll be back. But last year, we were so cautious moving forward, which was appropriate. And I was appreciative because Tom was sensitive to what we were trying to do. And they put every reasonable precaution in place. And in the end, there were no identifiable illnesses coming out of those events.
Right. There was no cases whatsoever.
Nope. And it was way different because you and I both went to the Grand Prix, and the experience was terrific, as it always is, but it was significantly different to what we had been accustomed to. Yeah. And but it had to be. It had to be. There was, significantly more distance, less people, but it was. I'm glad we were able to do it, and I look forward to doing it again this year, just in a way that we feel is normal.
Right. Like last night, as the county executive alluded to.
Yeah,
that was a nice speech that Pat gave.
Mm-hmm. Big night, fun.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So now we also have been extraordinarily challenged by the rain. We have a number of neighborhoods in Saugus that are suffering drainage issues. I know our fire departments all across the county are helping residents with flooded basements and driveways and things of that nature. We're doing the best we can for maintenance, but the reality is these stormwater systems were not designed for this level of rain. No. It's been an extraordinary challenge. We have a couple of landslides, and we're weighing our options on how we can stabilize those slopes so that they don't threaten property or the stormwater infrastructure. That the one landslide, the pipe is exposed for 30 feet now, and we're not even sure why that happened, because all indications are that the stormwater system was working well there, but we still lost a significant amount of earth, and the pipe is exposed almost all the way back to the first catch basin, and we're gonna have to take some corrective action, working with the town engineer to put that together now. But it's pretty widespread in the Barclay Heights area, especially. They seem to have been very hard hit. We have a private contractor who can send small robots into the pipe and remove obstructions of roots and other debris. And there's been some indication that some of the pipe over the years has started to fail. And I think we are going to use a technology that puts basically a fabric membrane somewhat like a very large sock. Excuse me. That's impregnated with epoxies and other chemicals.
On the inner wall?
On the inner wall. And then they fill that sock with steam that's superheated, and that causes the chemical reaction that will harden those chemicals into a plastic-like substance and line that inner wall.
Where that pipe will not to be dug up.
Where that pipe will not have to be dug up.
From what I understand in talking with past superintendents, like, for example, Al Ferraro, Bernie Ellsworth, some of those large drainage pipes run underneath swimming pools.
Yep.
On people's property, where they plopped a swimming pool on a drainage easement.
Yep, we have that. Well, folks don't know. You see the catch basin in your yard, but you have no indication of which way those pipes go.
Right.
And in one area, it goes right through a backyard. And there is a pool and a fence and a shed, so what are you going to do with that? So assuming that pipe is stable underneath those structures, this relining process will just make that so we don't have to worry about it for a really, really long time. And some folks who live in the village might remember about a month and a half ago, the village employed a similar technology to make a repair on storm, and it caused some angst amongst village residents because it looked like smoke coming from the manholes, and it smelled
on Main
a
Street,
little
right?
bit.
Main in Washington. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So same technology, actually the same company, Arrow. They're local, and they are amongst the best at that particular process in the Northeast. So.
Well, and you're going to get that too when you put that kind of steam into there, that kind of temperature. Just like if you were to do it on the outside on a winter's day.
Yep. So we're gonna be doing some of that. We don't know.
I know our focus after what we've experienced this year, as far as we've kind of shifted gears and shifted things around for our fall work. It's going to mainly be drainage.
Do some drainage improvements.
We had a collapse. I don't know if you noticed the steel plate right adjacent to the band stage in the roadway. We had that collapse about, a month ago, and then last winter, to the left of it, and just to the south of Court Drive, we had a collapse, and then Sunday morning, a large chunk of roadway just disappeared in that area. And, a couple of the fields on the south end of the complex where the soil profile is all sand were playable Sunday morning, but the degree of erosion we just determined the fields were unsafe. Thornton Field, we lost approximately, along the back edge at first base, approximately 6 inches of elevation.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I saw the pictures of the guys trying to pump that. That was pretty amazing.
Well, that was in between 2 and 3 with that mud sucker. We've got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you guys doing today?
Good morning, George.
Hey, I did come up last night, but as I was coming out of 32 and 9W there, I saw the sign that said August 21st for the first responders game.
Ooh, I don't know where that sign came from.
I drove up by Canton Field and stuff last night, and it looked like there was not very much activity there, but then again, I got there about 5:45. So it sounds like I missed out on a fantastic evening. I wanted to thank you guys for inviting me up and everything else, and it would have been a fantastic night to see you guys and be there and watch what turned out to be a very great game and honor the first responders and everything else, what they deserve to be honored because they do a fantastic job.
Where was that sign, George?
Where 32 and 9W meet, coming by just after you pass Trim Maples Plaza.
That's got to be for some kind of a different event. That's.
I'm going to look, George. That's near where I live. I'm curious. I don't know who put that sign there.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because like I said, I did drive up last night and stuff, and drove down the street by Canton Field and stuff, turned around at the high school and said, "Oh, okay, there's nothing going on."
You didn't drive into the complex?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because there was a lot of activity at 5:45. I was there at 5:45. In fact, you had just set up the 2 ladder trucks and draped the flag across it. They arrived about a little after 5 o'clock.
Okay, so that must have been right there by the ice arena then.
No, that was if you turned in onto Mosier Drive before you got to the high school. It was the first intersection, which is Mosier and Pavilion Street. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
No, but hey, but hey, sounds like everybody had a great time, and you was able to honor the people who really deserve to be honored and stuff, and that was fantastic.
Yes, we were.
So very good, and hey, like I said, thank you for the invite. Sorry, I lost up, but like I said, I saw that one side. I said, I could have sworn he said tonight. But what can I tell you? And thanks, Chief Snogler, for getting in touch with me about the time and everything, because he did contact me towards the end of last week after I called and left a message for you guys and stuff. And but hey, I'm glad everybody had a fantastic night. Sounds like all the rain held off and stuff because we had rain down here overnight.
We did too.
Yeah,
I feel bad you missed it, George. It was a fun night, and it would have been great to have you there.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised this doesn't become an annual event.
Do it again.
I think
Oh, sounds good. Well, you guys go ahead, have a great show. Thank you. Keep up the good work, and I'll keep listening.
All right, George. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, everybody.
You too. Jeez, that's weird. I wonder what that's.
I gotta look for that sign.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it, and I don't know why it would give that date. That's unless there's something coming up that we don't know about.
And it wouldn't have even been a mistake with the month because last night was the 20th.
Mm-hmm. The 20th. The 20th of July.
Yeah, 20th of July. Wow. Nuts. Yeah, next week while we're sitting here, it'll be the last Wednesday in July.
Yeah,
We'll be out turning the page into August.
And Kevin will come back and bring us breakfast. I really missed that last week. I love my market basket sandwich.
Yeah, we do. We look forward to those.
Yeah.
Jeez. I always think of my grandmother, my dad's mom. When we were kids, we'd be having a family picnic on the 4th of July. And when it was getting late in the afternoon and everybody's starting to pack up, she's like, okay, 4th of July's over, so is summer. And I'm like, Grandma, it's not over. I just got out of school.
It just started.
Yeah. But there's as you get older, you kind of understand that point. She wasn't that far off.
I tell you, this year has flown by. I mean, it seems like, literally, it seems like we were only doing the radiothon here in the end of March, and it's already, I mean, we're football camp, training camp for the football opens for next week, and it's just like, my God, man, where is this summer gone? So, I mean, we're 6 weeks away from September.
I know. It's pretty wild.
Less than 2 months from opening day of football.
Yeah, I know.
It's nuts.
It doesn't look like there's going to be an Aaron Rodgers.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm so tired of watching that on the news, though. It's just like they're running out of stuff to talk. I guess for the next couple of days they'll have to talk about the Bucks because Milwaukee won the NBA championship last night, which is the first time actually in 50 years. The last time the Bucks won was when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson played 1971. They won the finals that year.
Wow.
Yeah, so 50 years. So kind of like similar to what Kansas City had back in 2019. They were on a 50-year drought.
Yeah.
And so it's good to see
Good for them, yeah.
See them win.
I'll tell you, though, what a great series, because the first two games looked like...
Oh, I thought too. I thought the Suns were going to run away with it.
Yep.
That's got to hurt, though. You're up 2-0. You win at home. Right, they were the
they did exactly what they were supposed to do.
They go to Milwaukee, and then they didn't win another one after that.
No, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Good series, really hard fought. It was fun to watch.
Now there's nothing to watch. The Yankees are terrible. I mean, we can watch them, but they won last night. The Yankees won last night, but they're just ever since this sticky ball thing, they haven't been able to hit. Cole can't pitch. Chapman's hurt, but they'll get it together.
I don't know if they will. I feel like that team doesn't. It's missing.
I don't know. I never was happy with the Boone signing, but
me neither. I'm not. And even when Girardi was there, those players all played hard for him.
Yeah, and
every game.
He was on their team for
and
a while. I always thought Don Mattingly was going to be the next manager, but I don't know what happened with him and the Steinbrenners. I mean, he's still with Florida, right?
I think he's still with Florida. Yeah.
So maybe he just likes the weather down there better.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lack of chemistry. It's I don't know.
All right, well, you guys want to go to break, and then we'll come back with the chief, or is there an announcement in there?
I read it.
We did.
All right, so let's go to break.
We did the one announcement.
Yeah, I think there's one in there, isn't there?
Yeah, no, we did.
Yeah, it was actually a good one. It was,
Fred.
we're welcoming at the VFW, they're going to have the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier comp.
Yeah,
the
Bill
portable.
Forte was on yesterday, so he had.
Oh,
great.
Yeah, he came on yesterday,
Good.
and it was a good show.
Good.
All right, so listeners, we'll go to break, and then we'll be back in a few with Chief Tinti, and I believe he'll probably be bringing someone along with him.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Swimming pools are great for family fun, and Central Hudson wants you to play it safe. Never operate an electric appliance next to or in the pool. Be sure pool motors and filters are grounded. Have them installed by a professional and serviced by a licensed professional electrician. Be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a pool, especially if using long-handled cleaning tools. And if a storm is nearby, get out of the water. Your safety matters.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Your passion showing, Chief. Yeah.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners who have been with us the first half hour. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. In the studio here with me is Supervisor for the town of Saugerties, Fred Costello, Chief Jid Tinti from the city of Kingston, and Elisa.
The someone I brought.
Elisa someone. Thank you.
As we mentioned on break, she's my backup. And initially I was going to have Deputy Chief Mike Bonts join me to talk about some of the issues that have come up in the last week, which we will discuss in the next half hour. So stay tuned for that one. That should be hot and heavy. But I promised my wife, who's accompanying me this morning as her, what'd you call yourself? My backup. My backup. The backup plan. When no one else wants to be around me, there's an obligation. So she said, okay, let's go. Yeah, so...
of course, you are the city clerk for the city of Kingston, for our listeners who may not know that.
Which is always interesting to see the dynamic that occurs during these council and committee meetings, because occasionally I
find my 2 minutes about everything you said. That's charming. You get to live it twice.
Yeah, exactly.
I find myself,
can't get away from it.
The older I get, having less patience or tolerance for things that I find absolutely ridiculous. And I understand. I don't live in the world of politics. I'm affected by it, obviously, but I'm not in it, right? So I don't have the same needs to be elected and reelected, and I get that. I do. I've never wanted that part. God bless you. Really, seriously, it's a difficult position to be in. But at the end of the day, I think that the elected officials in the city have to just vote their conscience, whatever that might be, yes or no. They got to do what's right. And in some cases, I see that we had I'm taking over the first half hour. I don't want to do it. No, absolutely not. Come back for the second half hour, everybody. But there is an interesting dynamic occurring at City Hall now that we haven't had in almost over a year, right? So this last Finance Committee meeting that I attended was also attended by a local activism group that was there, and they had, defund the police and everything going on. And so was that the first meeting at City Hall that was open to the public?
No,
Okay.
no. Actually, our first meeting that was open, let me think what it was. I think it was the first Common Council meeting last month.
Was that well attended? I wasn't there.
I mean, all the
I
aldermen.
find it confusing.
Yeah.
I do, because
Yeah.
since the governor lifted all the restrictions, we're obligated to have a quorum present to conduct
Right.
business. And quite honestly, folks are not ready to come out. And it's been confusing, and we're trying to maintain a hybrid component where people who have been watching us online can still do that, but hold the meeting in person. And we don't have the right technology to make it effective for both.
Right.
If you're in the room, it's a good experience, or if you're online, it's a good experience. It's not a good experience for both.
Right. Well,
depending on what's happening.
that's kind of where we are right now. The Common Council did pass the financial needs to set up a hybrid situation in City Hall, and it just hasn't happened yet. So we are currently, so the first Common Council meeting was interesting because everybody had to be there, of course. I was there. Corporation Council was with me. My deputy was not available. And the aldermen were there, and I believe Ariel from the Freeman. That was the only people in the room. But we were trying to live stream it and be in the chambers at the same time. And because of the sound system in the chambers, we couldn't be at our regular seats, so we had to put tables together in the center of the room with the microphones there. And so we have this setup going on that was not great. Yeah, it wasn't ideal. We actually had to stop in the middle.
Feedback issues that
We
you
had
tried to
feedback. We
overcome.
lost the sound. We had all kinds of things going on. So
Sounds familiar.
yeah, so we're trying to work out the kinks a little bit. Then we did have finance, and that was very well attended. We probably had 50 people in the room for
There
that.
was also technical difficulty, right? The
Right,
camera,
yes.
the
Again,
sound
we
in
had to
sync or
stop.
something,
Yep,
or-
everything. There was an issue. Actually, there was an issue on Zoom's end. We didn't know that at the time. We were in a panic over what was happening because I was getting texts in the middle of the meeting, people saying, I can't hear you, I can't see you. And so we did stop the meeting for a few minutes and try to work that out. But we're hoping that by next month, the new sound system will be in place in City Hall. And that way we can be present. It'll be, virtual, and we will be present, and people would have the capability to call in, because public speakers were emailing me and calling me at City Hall saying, I want to speak, but I don't want to come out yet. Like you said, they just aren't quite there yet. And so right now, they can't do that. They can either
I'm
come.
not even 100% confident we're going to get there. Because the technologies that do exist, unless we're going to set up a television type studio and you're going to have a moderator, I don't know that we're going to get there. It's
kind of where you're headed.
Yeah,
right?
we have a pretty sophisticated system that's going to be put into the upstairs of City Hall and the Common Council
and
chambers.
you're going to have a moderator, you think, to toggle? Or
Well,
you
this
think-
is the company who's doing it had come in about 2 years ago and put in a whole sound system for us. So now they are incorporating the visual part of that system. So we will have large screen TVs that will, there's furniture that will protect them. So they will come up and come down, like a screen will come
Okay.
up and down. And the sound system will work, it's compatible to that. So, and the computer, I'm going to need some lessons on how to run it while it's happening, but that's the plan, and that's what I'm told.
Speaking to Kyle McIntosh, who's the IT director for the city, he mentioned that the system really is two-part, the video and the audio, which are different separate channels. And on top of that, you have the introduction of video from an individual's home, Zoom or whatever else they're using to come in. and then a screen that allows them to be seen. So Zoom will show up, and everyone can look and see who's speaking. And on the other end of it, someone who's speaking within the crowd then would also have a tracking camera. And he showed us one the other day that they have set up essentially as a tripod right now that will automatically, when it picks up sound, will turn and identify who the person is speaking. So there's a lot of different technologies that are trying to make it, but obviously it's working in other places. It's just a matter of adopting. And, I think I was there when you had the discussion with Kyle about the one thing that makes it that much more difficult is that there is a historic guideline that they have to follow with City Hall. So it's not just let's slap this 75 screen on the wall. You can't do anything to the chambers. So everything has to be movable or at least built in. So when people saw, because a couple of people called my office, they think I'm her. Mm-hmm. And although I try to pitch my voice differently, they catch on pretty quick. It's unbelievable how often she gets my emails, I get her emails, and now on top of all that, my son, who's a police officer for Kingston, is also Tinti. Tinti. So we're all getting each other, and there's only one letter in between that separates. And so occasionally, it's interesting to say the least. But it's all being worked out. But so this camera system I think is important. We want citizen involvement, right? We absolutely do. I encourage it. How many times have I given out my phone number to my office, 943-5766. To anyone that wants to meet with me, have coffee, talk about stuff, I put it all out there. I can tell you that every agency, every law enforcement agency, and I can speak for Saugerties on this, I absolutely know that Chief Sinagra is transparent. Mm-hmm. We put it out there, right? And he does, right? He does. And I used to on a regular basis, but 2:00 in the morning when someone gets pulled over and they're calling me and waking her up, that does not fly, right? So, with our system at work, when they do call the business line, even when I'm off, I do get a message that says someone left a voicemail. So if it's something that's important, I'll return the call immediately. But it is interesting that, like I said, I know for a fact I can speak for Joe Sinagra. He puts it out there. He's one of the chiefs that absolutely believes whatever you want to know about RPD, there it is, right? And even during this EO 203 review, Saugerties came out on top of everything, right? I read the report. There's always something that can be tweaked, right? Always. We're seeing it now, right? The city common council is voted to adopt, I think it's $20,000 for Peaceful Guardian in an effort to put in a 1 year and ultimately a 5-year plan on adoption of some of these things that were put out there.
What was the announcement yesterday? Because we went.
Yeah, so yesterday, it was great. The sheriff had been struggling at some point. I'll use that term, although he hasn't. I think struggling to come up with an idea. And it's very difficult because violence is not just plaguing Kingston or Ellenville. It's everywhere in the state, at least minimally. We get the reports. We're one of 17 jurisdictions in the state identified as what they consider to be high crime. These 17 jurisdictions are responsible for more than half, outside of New York City, half of the crime that occurs in New York State. So we are number 17. We just made the list, but we're still in that group. So with that comes additional funding. And when I see the weekly reports now, it is mind-boggling to see when you read stats that shootings in cities, in these 17 cities collectively, has gone up nearly 70% since last year. It blows my mind, right? So gun violence, shooting all over is just unbelievable. So in an effort to try to stay ahead,
it's shocking to see it, but when you watch the news, it's right there because it's persistent across the whole country. Every urban center in the country is suffering the same consequence, and it's
and there's a number of factors. I'm no criminologist. I don't claim to be one. There are a number of factors. So you can tune into a different show for that one, right? But for Kingston, so the sheriff and I met. I know he met with Chief Matrician from Ellenville, and collectively we are putting together what he has called AVERT. And the program itself is designed.
What is it called?
AVERT, A-V-E-R-T. It stands for, you're going to hold me to that. I just saw anti-violence. If it comes out, it's in there.
Similar to an IPP.
IPV.
Yeah,
so,
IPV.
Although yesterday we had a community meeting down at Hasbrook Park, and every 2 weeks, so not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after at 6 o'clock. I encourage anyone that wants to show up to show up. It is a very forthcoming meeting. It's usually command staff from the sheriff's office, myself, the state police, and we just put it all out there. Any questions you have, we've been doing this for almost a year, so, a lot of the things when someone new shows up that hasn't been before, they're playing catch up, right? They're like, well, I don't understand, how come you don't hire more people of color, right? And everyone rolls their eyes to go, hold on a second, let's go back, and we try to fill you in. But so with this AVERT program, the idea is very similarly based. It's a combination of Oracle, IPV, GVI, which is gang violence or group violence initiative intervention. And on top of that, I think there's a component on the back end outside of it for urgent and Kingston SIU, for KPD SIU. And ideally, it's an intelligence-based information gathering. But what makes this slightly different, and the sheriff has said many times that it will evolve, right? As we start to add staff to this thing, which is the most difficult thing to do today. And I give Mayor Noble incredible credit for this. He recognizes, after hearing my pleas over the last year, listen, I can't keep doing what I'm doing with the staff I have. I need more cops, right? And so he said, listen, we're at that point. So he's introducing or not the legislation, but a communication to add 3 more full-time officers to Kingston Police Department to bring us back up to 74. So that will be huge. I can tell you administratively, 78 is the number I need. At 78 cops, I can account for injuries and illness because we're always going to have somebody out. There's always going to be somebody getting hurt on the job, getting hurt off the job, whatever it might be, and staffing because currently, as it stands, 3 of them are assigned as SROs. So we say 78 officers, ideally, but there's really only 75 staffing to the police department. So the detective division went from 12 to 8. Again, difficult to handle the cases and the level of cases. For years we were handling burglaries, a couple of larcenies, and now we have, unsolved homicides we're banging on doors on. So
the amount of work that those take is incredible.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
2 binders standing the
search warrant. When we execute search warrants, the returns that come back just on one of these is thousands of pages of information. That doesn't, nobody just gives it to you and says, here's a summary. You got to actually have a detective go through and make sense of everything, the text messages, the pictures, all of it. Every keystroke gets recorded. It's amazing. So, but with that in mind.
Fortunately, we've had fairly easy to solve cases in Syracuse in my time of service. And then when I see the paperwork that's generated by those, I'm just like, oh my God.
One case.
Yeah.
We have one case that's in the center of the detective division because it's always being open and closed depending on the leads that are coming in. And I mean leads coming in. There are 4 huge boxes of just case leads in there. The evidence is someplace else. The physical evidence is downstairs, locked up or in the lab. Just these huge boxes, these totes sitting in the room, in the middle of the room. I mean, people are using it to put their coffee on now. It's just like it's structured.
Furniture.
It's a furniture now. So
with the three you're hiring, that's going to bring you to 74.
It'll bring us to 74. Now we currently have one vacancy left in that position. So we have one vacancy open. We have not been able to replace it, which again we're in a difficult position because we have the vacancy left by a retirement. We don't have a list yet to work off of. I'm told that the test we gave in May, the results are coming back this week. Once we get those names, right, civil service guidelines, once we get those names, that first group of 195, whatever it might be, we will then start doing background investigations on them. So as soon as the Common Council reviews the communication from the mayor, I would like to believe that every member of that council can look at that communication, can speak to me, have heard me speak, and said, what do you need, Chief? What do you need, right? No one at that table could, I'm trying not to get elevated, could even say, we don't need more cops. Cuomo said, spend the money on cops. Biden said, spend the money on cops. You can't argue with that, right? So in addition to the staffing that Mayor Noble's requesting, I'm also requesting additional equipment in the form of cameras. And we could talk about that in the second half hour because there's a lot of
So the bottom line, though, you're still going to be for under full allotment?
Well, say full allotment. We're at currently full allotment, right? Budgetarily, we're at 71 cops. We're good. We're down one position because it's vacant, but we're moving to hire that.
In an
ideal world, 78.
Ideal scenario, or previously,
We had 80.
I think I thought,
We had 80 cops. And when you go to these meetings and people bring up community policing, absolutely 100%. You can't police the community in at that level when cops are running call to call, handling reactionary calls. I need a cop, I need a cop, I need a cop. We tried different walking posts, right? Hey, listen, get out there. You're going to do 15 minutes in the beginning of your shift, 15 minutes in the afternoon. They're just not finding the time to do it. They are handling calls. Last night, between the accidents and the domestics, I know 2 of the officers didn't even have lunch break, like dinner break on that. They just didn't have time to do it. So, and that's where you pull in somewhere, grab a burger or a candy bar and just keep moving, So, but with staffing, that is the most difficult part. And we experienced, again, understanding that we are replacing them as the vacancies occur, except for this last one because the list is expended at this point. We have 2 in the academy that we can't use, and we can't use when they graduate in August. They're still not going to count on the schedule until after they complete their 12 weeks of field training. So they won't count for us until October. And then we had just hired 2 that don't have the academy that go in August, won't come out until January, and won't count on the schedule until March.
Wow.
So as much as we are filled to capacity as far as budgetarily, staffing-wise, boots on the ground, we're just not there. So, and that I know you went through it in your office, right? You were down staffing levels. On a smaller scale, to some degree, you have 4 in the office total, right? And
I have my full-time bilingual clerk right now, and I couldn't be happier.
So how much of that, right? We're lucky at the KPD, we have 3 bilingual Spanish-speaking officers, and all 3 of them, English is their second language, essentially. I mean, they are amazing. One's a detective, Benny Reyes. Geraldo Reich is absolutely amazing on the street, and one in the academy, Abel Flores, and they're all, local guys, so absolutely just incredible. You say right now, how much of your interaction with the public requires bilingual?
Well, right now, it's amazing. She's speaking Spanish all day long.
All day long.
Yeah. Yep.
What a great resource, though.
Yeah. Yes.
I think.
And to be honest, before she arrived, we had someone who was just temporary, Mark, who was wonderful, but before that, for probably 2 years, I had my phone. That's it. Yeah, Google Translate, and really didn't realize just how much of the community was not being served, because they must have known that there really was nobody there who really could help them. And then when Mark arrived a month ago, I even mentioned to the mayor, I think that the community now knows that there's somebody in the office who can help them, because I realized one day he is speaking Spanish all day long. It's just nonstop. And he has since left us, and we have this other person now, Maribel, her name is, and she's just wonderful. And it's all day. It is. We are definitely now serving the community, which is wonderful to see.
And all your paperwork, right? Everything's.
We have everything in
translated
in Spanish and in English, and she'll translate for anything that needs to go on the website or in press releases. So she's just wonderful to have.
We have a couple of officers who can speak both languages, and it makes a huge difference. There's a level of confidence that folks have speaking, if that's their native language, that just wouldn't exist otherwise. And there's intuitive parts to how we use language that if I can only say hello, I'm not going to pick up on those.
Right. And I've had, and it's very heartbreaking when, somebody would come into my office and they needed something, and I'm using my phone and they start to cry because they can't communicate what they need. And we've had that happen, and it's terrible. Yeah. So I'm just so happy that we have her now.
Perfect. She does a great job.
Yeah,
right?
She's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. And so, here's another thing, and I know there's a lot of critics of Mayor Noble out there. I understand that. And, full disclosure, there are times that him and I don't agree on things, right? But at the end of the day,
Lisa doesn't
She's the
agree
boss,
with you all the
right?
time.
Yeah, she doesn't agree. I don't agree with her, but I still do what I'm told.
Yeah, I think that's a perception of politics. So there's no way that a representative is going to agree with you 100% of the time.
But I
No
can
way.
tell you, at any point, agree or disagree with him, he has the best interests of Kingston at every point. There's never a time he goes into work knowing, and listen, I get it, he's my boss. But the fact is, everything he looks at Kingston with is the eye to make it better. How can I serve this community better? Born, raised, went to school here. It is all about, him and Julie are all about Kingston. And, sometimes I shake my head because I don't understand, and I'm not privy to the information he is. I recognize that, right? I'm a rung or two down from the top of the ladder where he is, right? So, but the one thing he has recognized, is the need for the community to have avenues to interact with law enforcement, with the city clerk's office. So, when you talk about someone coming to your office who's emotional, either they can't communicate or something's going on in their family, a death certificate need or whatever, that still exists on a very different scale when law enforcement responds to a domestic. When you get there and maybe even the dispatcher is having difficulty understanding, right? Well, you'll hear it on the radio. We have a language barrier, right? Officers expedite, and you get there and you're trying to make sense, and everyone's just speaking different languages. And, most of the time it is Spanish that we see that the bilingual component in the city is really Spanish more than anything else. But there are other languages, right? What was the other one you mentioned the other day that was like, what?
Yeah, well, before I was city clerk, I worked for Ulster BOCES for many years in adult education, and part of that was the learning to speak English. And there are pockets of different cultures all through Kingston, and we have a large group of individuals who speak French Creole. And where are we getting a translator for that?
I've never run into that.
Yeah,
right?
no, there's a large population that speaks French Creole. So, you wouldn't know that. Yeah, we get all kinds of languages in the office. Thank God for Google Translate. Thank God.
But there are challenges in everything, whether it's the paperwork or, you walk into Lowe's or Home Depot and they have the sign, right? Point to the language. And then at least that you can identify, it's going to be this, German or Polish or whatever it might be. So, but it is definitely challenging. And in emergency situations, whether it's someone who's a resident that lives here, works here, or someone who's passing through, right? I imagine, Saugerties has got a huge influx of vacationers and people that just show up either for hits or, I'm amazed. I'm amazed by what Kingston's got going on. But Saugerties, I gotta tell you, it's amazing. Like, I listen to the stuff, I'm like, what? They got a festival for that up there? Garlic festival, right? That's
pretty.
That's huge. That's a pin on the map, right? So.
Yeah, but if the four of us came up with that idea today, I would leave here laughing. You're like, yeah, Tinti brought up a garlic festival. What a dumb idea that is. But look what it turned into.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
When Bob Yerrick first contacted me years ago, he was the first. Him and Pat Repper.
Yep.
It was a one-day event. And I said, a garlic festival? And I said, how many people do you think are going to show up to it?
Come on, garlic.
He said, there could be several thousands. And this was a telephone conversation, because if he could ever saw the expression on my face.
Yeah. No one could have predicted that.
Garlic
Pat Repper might have been able to predict it because she had that vision kind of all.
Oh, yes.
She started it in her backyard.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's where it started. Yeah. She held it for 3 years, and it got too big.
Yep.
So. Unbelievable. No, and those are the, and again, government is there to serve the people, right? We recognize that. And we, with that in mind, every jurisdiction struggles to serve their population the best it can, right? There are certain, I know, again, with Chief Sinagra, right? He has a different jurisdiction to serve. 65 square miles? Is that about right? Is it
geographically it's big.
Geographically, right? Saugerties is a large community that needs to be served by, and I'll say, a relatively small, for the size, 26, 25 officers, somewhere's in there, plus part-timers, 23.
Yeah, 23 plus part-time.
So, now you've got Kingston, 7 square miles, 6.5 square miles, 71 cops. Concentrated population of 23,000. County is what, 180,000 people. So, the sheriff showed up yesterday at the community meeting, and the first thing when he got out of the car, he goes, I just came from a sheriff's conference in Sullivan County. He says, man, I thought Ulster County was rural. Sullivan County says, I saw all you saw, there were more cows than people, he says, just the way it is, right? So every community, their government, their jurisdiction has to function differently to serve them. So I think it's important. And one of the things that came out of yesterday's announcement, AVERT, is essentially a collaborative effort and an extension. So Oracle has been successful on the sheriff's side because he's working with law enforcement and he's working with mental health, social services, and redirection agencies like Samadhi. Dave from Samadhi was there last night, and now AVERT kind of uses that same model, adds a focused deterrent similar to what David Kennedy's program is with GVI, and puts into motion that for any type of violence, and specifically gun violence is what we're looking at. So when we get information that, hey, little Johnny Jones was seen with a gun in his hand, what are we going to do with that information? And so here's an opportunity to kind of act on it without the enforcement capability, right? Detectives and officers are involved, but more importantly, we can divert Johnny's energy, negative energy in that direction to more of a positive, whether it's education, whether it's work, whatever it might be. So we'll try it, right? There's a lot of things. We got to keep trying. We did the gun buyback. It was successful, but it's not everything, right? We're looking for cameras in Kingston. Is it great? It will be. I can tell you the success of other agencies and cameras are great, but it's not going to answer everything. Crime still occurs, So, but we got to keep building this building block approach. And the one component that is across the board the same, no matter what you do, is money. We got to have money to do it. That's it. You got to have money to pay your staff in order to hire bilingual clerks, right? So we'll see how it goes.
We are at the top of the hour. That means it's time for a break for our sponsors. We'll be back in a few, listeners.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you that summer thunderstorms can strike with strong, gusty winds, knocking down trees and power lines. If you see a downed power line, call 911 immediately to report it. Power lines can carry an electric current strong enough to cause injury or death. Stay at least 30 feet away from a fallen line. Don't try to move it or anything that has come in contact with it. And never drive over a power line. Remember, your safety matters.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners who have been with us this morning. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. In the studio here with me this morning, Chief Jid Tinti.
Good morning.
City of Kingston. Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties. And it's
everyone.
time for birthdays.
Good, Chief.
All right, I have a postcard here for happy birthday, Kevin Montagna. We love you. Thank you. I don't have it from who, but we love you, Kevin. Happy birthday.
I have happy birthday to Linda Murphy from your friends at People's Place. We hope you enjoy your special day.
And today's winner of that famous cow pie from Boyce Dairy Milk House is Kevin Montana.
And we love you.
Kevin,
We love you.
Yes, we love you. Congratulations. When you get and happy birthday, when you get the opportunity, get down to Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, right here in Kingston, New York. Pick up that famous cow pie, courtesy of Boyce Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And listeners, please continue to send the birthdays in. It's very easy to do. You can email to kcr921@gmail.com. You can postal mail to Kingston Community Radio, P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. Again, congratulations, Kevin.
Well done.
Enjoy your day. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Congratulations, and we all love you.
We all love you, Kevin. I'm going to use this opportunity to say happy birthday to two of the KPD officers down there, Detective Adam Hotelling, and Officer Ken Palmer. They have their birthdays today as well. Happy birthday.
And why didn't you send them in?
I was just going to say, you should have submitted them the last time you were on the show, and then they probably would have became winners. I usually tell people, if you want to win the cow pie, send it in 2 weeks early, and you're almost guaranteed to win.
There you go. That's it.
Well, we'll get them next year.
All right, so are we going to do this?
Now you're solo.
I'm solo. She can't hold me back. She's not giving me the stink eye.
She can't throw a muzzle on you.
Nope, she can't. She can deny any. She can not claim any responsibility. She's no longer my handler. So, for the listeners and viewers, for those watching, I'm going to go into something I'm a little hot about. I've calmed down since it happened, but so the other day we went in front of our finance committee for two items, and I know that's been in the paper, and one of them is for the introduction and use of citywide cameras by law enforcement for helping with investigations. That's really the basis for it, right? So there's two things that cameras do. One is a deterrent, right? If someone sees a camera, they may change their behavior. Not always 100%. Some people don't see them. They don't care if they're on or not, right? And I use the example, right? You can go into a department store somewheres, and you know you're on camera in the parking lot, through the lobby, inside every aisle, but shoplifting still occurs, right? It's still going to happen. But what makes it easier for loss prevention is that having that capability to go back and say, well, here's the evidence that you took it off the shelf. So, one, the deterrent effect, and two, the investigative component. So at the request of Alderman Tollerman, for Ward 5, who has recently, as everyone knows, we've experienced some high levels of violence, shots fired, shootings in Kingston all around. We talked about it in the first half hour. And one thing that I suggested him was the use of cameras. He asked me to put a proposal together. We did. I sat with myself, Deputy Chief Mike Bonds, and Officer Jeremy Arciello, who is just starting to look into the technology camera stuff. He's got some background in it, so I figured that he would be a good choice. He knows the city streets. He's been involved in all these calls. Jeremy's a good fit for it. So we put together locations with our crime analyst, Darian Morley, who's out of the Hudson Valley Crime Analysis Center. She works for Kingston, as well as the CAC out of the John Finn Institute up in Albany. 29 locations is what we're looking at in and around the city of Kingston. The majority of them are streets in Midtown. Unfortunately, that's where the violence is occurring, but there are numerous locations around the outside, so we can see traffic coming in and out. The cameras themselves run about $10,000, a little less, multi-head, single unit with multi-cameras on them, and they allow essentially a 270-degree view of the intersections. They're not intrusive. They do have pan-tilt zoom capability, but we have the capability to lock them out, so only a lieutenant and above is able to actually move the cameras, and everything's logged, and who logged in and who changed it and stuff like that. So we plan right now, part of the proposal is to put a large screen TV down at our dispatch or communications system. And when something happens, dispatchers will be able to see what's going on. And I give the scenario most common. We get a call for either shots fired or somebody screaming in the street. They're able to look up location upon receiving the phone call and say, yeah, I have a black pickup truck leaving the scene right now, or I have a 6'2" white male running in the southerly direction down Henry Street. So a lot of that information is important to patrol so that they see. Now, it doesn't always mean that 6'2" white male is involved, right? They might be running because they heard the shots, but certainly gives us a lot more information to work off of. And there's no denying, and I think you can speak to some of this in Saugerty, is that the camera systems have been valuable. The one component, and I'll say it to those that are listening, it's the whole price tag's about $300,000 and about $25,000 to $30,000 every year to maintain between warranties and Verizon LTE data plans. But go ahead.
Oh, okay, because Lawrence had mentioned that. So that's basically for extended warranty coverage?
Yeah, for the first year.
You just said LTE. That means it's going to be wireless.
Correct. So the systems themselves, the cameras are designed not to be tied together, wired, except for the tap. So the electricity, they're powered through a tap in the dusk to dawn sensors for the streetlights. So they get mounted. There's a fixed mount. They mount to it through a clamp. The city electrician can take the camera off and move it to different locations as long as there's a mount there. These systems are used in most places, cities, parking lots. I mean, you can get them as cheap as $7,000, but once you start adding multi-head or multi-cameras to them, that's when the cost starts going up. But it's a single purchase.
That includes the internet connection, though.
So Verizon provides the 5G or 4G LTE network. So each one gets a SIM card. They're essentially like a phone, right? Okay. So the SIM card transmits information. Now, we have a good Verizon, and I say Verizon because that's who we use, but they have a good base in Kingston. There's very few bad spots in cell coverage there. So these cameras will be mounted. You tap into the power, easily movable. We can move them as necessary when these hotspots always move, right? We understand that that's part of it, right? Once we start putting pressure on individuals that are acting out of social norms in these intersections, they move someplace else, right? So part of it is that we're looking at about a $300,000 price tag. And I know people say, oh, this is not right, put it to this. Please understand that my frustration comes from phone calls every day to my office that say, what are you going to do about the crime? What are you going to do about the crime? We have to do something. $300,000 is a drop in the bucket. It's a $40 million city budget a year. $10 million plus is the city police department alone. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is more important than public safety to any community. Because if you don't feel safe going out on your streets, it doesn't matter how nice the parks are, it doesn't matter what the weather's like, you won't put your kid out there. There it is, right? Everything else is based on it. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the first baseline is safety and security.
That's the foundation of the public.
You have to, right? There it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the social contract just starts there.
That's where it is, right? If you don't feel comfortable going out there, you're not going out there. It doesn't matter how nice the parks are. Right? It doesn't matter even if there's potholes in the street. And I'm not trying to take away from fire, DPW. Those guys are amazing, right? They're all first responders, essential workers. But at the end of the day, they're also not going to go out there when bullets are whizzing. They're not going to do it, right? They're not picking up garbage if people are shooting at them in the neighborhood. So the first and foremost, and no one, I dare anyone to call my office and argue with me on that, right? So, because at some point, if they come into my office, and I'm going to talk like a crazy man now, I see Lawrence looking at me. If you come in my office to talk to me, and every time you open your mouth, I punch you in the mouth, you're going to stop talking, and you won't come back. It's the same thing. People have to feel safe in their homes. We've had houses hit with gunfire. And again, I say Kingston because I'm responsible for that, but Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, all the major cities in the state have experienced this. We have to, Governor Cuomo himself have declared an emergency with gun violence, right? He's tasked the state police to set up this anti-gun violence task force. It is recognized throughout the state now that this is a problem, across the nation, right? We talked about it, across the nation. So public safety is paramount. Again, going back to what I talked about in the first half hour, Mayor Noble has now requested communication through Common Council for 3 additional officers, one to be put into AVERT, the new program that we're partnering with the the Sheriff's Office and the Village of Ellenville. Anti-Violence Effort Response Team, that's what it stands for. I had to look it up. I'm ashamed of myself for not knowing it. I said it many times yesterday. But in addition to the cameras, the one thing that people have to understand is that that removes, the other component of that, I'm just sidetracked, is that people don't have to become the eyewitness anymore. There's a lot of apprehension about coming forward, even in a courtroom, and pointing at the person and say, that's the person I saw running from the scene. Because at that point, people are somewhat apprehensive of identifying themselves.
I think one of the side effects of some of the bail reform impacts were the discovery challenges. So now if I did something and my neighbor's the one turning me in, I know it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's going to create a tense relationship. And, I understand the public's concerned about Big Brother and cameras being everywhere and all of that. But the reality is pretty much every business, I walked here from a block away and I passed a number of homes that had the Ring.
Yeah, Ring cameras.
So
Great.
those are all available.
Yeah.
Now, prior to bail reform, it was likely that we would get some cooperation from those homeowners. Hey, we had an incident in your neighborhood. Would you mind sharing that? And the answer normally would be yes. Absolutely. Since then, though, now they're going to know that, hey, Fred's the one giving us the information. Now I may become a target in my own neighborhood. So I'm less likely to cooperate now than I was 2 years ago. So as a result of that, I think municipal
camera ownership
infrastructure is an important thing, because now there's no bias there. It is what it is.
We had 2 separate incidents in the past year where a homeowner had a camera, one over at J.C. Field, where we've experienced vandalism, some graffiti, etc. He had it on camera, but was reluctant to share because his neighbor at 2 in the morning on a January night had a rock thrown through the window. Another that lived on Washington Avenue, same thing. Yeah. And then that prompted us to put cameras at JC in the Heights and expand on, what we already had in play. We have a total in the complex of 57 cameras. Wow, nice. About 15 or 16 of them are inside the ice arena, another 4 inside the Greco Center. And then we've got several others at the satellite parks. Nice. And he can back me up on this. What this has saved in taxpayer monies with apprehension and restitution. Nice. About 25 years ago, I went on this mission with the judges, the DA's office. We used to get a ton of community service. I'd have the town of Ulster calling me. I forget her. She retired now. Every time I turned around, she was calling about placing for community service. It became a babysitting service where a full-timer, usually a supervisory staff member of mine, would have to literally babysit. I said, no more. And we first started putting those cameras and monitors in, not with taxpayer dollars, with restitution monies that we have received. Have we put taxpayer monies in since then? Yeah, sure, we have, because we've just continued to expand on it. But
Greg, I think back over the years, not just catching vandals and silly, unnecessary crimes or people who are speeding and putting other people's lives in jeopardy. The liability, there's an incident. Yeah. So now we get a notice claim. We go back and we look, and what the narrative that person offered was and what the camera says are completely different. So now our insurance company has the opportunity to defend us in a way where we're not going to be paying off something because we could prove that there wasn't you caught a person digging a hole in the blacktop, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things, on New Year's Day, a lady that claimed that she went out onto the ice and fell. It looked like her face was used as a punching bag, and she never went out on the ice. And we had now retired individual, Jim Murphy from the state police, that was there, witnessed the whole thing, but it's still, I couldn't believe how far it went, just about to trial on it. And we had the video. We had everything on it.
Wow. See, again, it's huge, right? And, the public demands it of their police department, right? Body cameras, dash cams, all that stuff. For us, we currently have, right? We have cameras everywhere we go. Here we are, right? Everything on camera. So it does change behavior slightly. A person who's committed to committing a crime, who's actually said, I'm going to do this, it's not going to matter, right? But it helps us on the investigative analysts you just point out. So it's a small investment. And I know people are like, it's $300,000 cheap. Yes, it is. Public safety. And people are like, oh, you're using it for everything.
That's
public safety.
That's 30 cameras with equipment, installation,
correct,
the cellular service, and the warranty. That's not bad.
For the first year. And then after that, so the Verizon plan costs $35 to $38 a month per camera. That's where the separate expense comes up, because each camera requires its own SIM chip. Right. So that's how they get back. They're localized storage. So each one has essentially a solid state hard drive that records it, but we can then live stream that information. So there's that. They are easily movable. They just need that tap. They can be installed by our city electrician. He doesn't know it yet, but we're moving that way. So it's about $10,000 a camera, a little less. But on top of that, we need the computer system dedicated at City Hall to do that. In our IT department, we currently have them already involved in certain aspects of other things, right? Bringing IP addresses and dedicated stuff, all stuff beyond my control or understanding at this point. But when we talk about cameras, it's a great investment. I don't believe that anyone is, and I say anyone, the common council members are balking at the expense, right? We recognize that, listen, we're getting money from the federal government. There's an investment in public safety. The big concern, obviously, is constitutional protection, civil liberties, and, what are they going to do with the information? What if they see me scratching my nose? Ridiculous. At the end of the day,
yes, ridiculous.
Yes,
Yes,
ridiculous. I'm up here, right? Because there are people that are screaming and yelling in my face about, you have no right to look at my stuff. Don't do anything wrong. And I know it's the cop mentality, right? If you don't have anything in your pockets and you don't have any problem emptying them, I get it. Public safety, right? If people are not safe or don't believe that they're safe in the streets, they're not going to come to Kingston. They're not going to shop. They're not going to go to the parks. They need to have that. And we understand as law enforcement, it's such a small segment, a tiny percentage of the population that's creating this havoc out there, right? There are, I've seen men, most of the suspects are, but that are doing this shooting, right? These shootings, daytime, broad daylight, they're shooting these weapons out there. So one, it's a matter of finding out where they're getting the guns. And two, making sure that when we catch them, they go away.
Yeah, you make the
right. So this AVERT program is designed to try to catch them before they get there. It's to get them so they divert or avert that type of lifestyle, and then we can move them towards either education or job skills or something, right? We give them another opportunity out there than following a life of crime. So you can't ignore the fact that there's going to have to be drug investigations, right? Drug trafficking and guns, violence, follow each other.
Hand in hand.
So they go hand in hand. But it is difficult sometimes because when you speak to someone who is, and I know, and listen, I'm not an elected official, who is irrational. When you speak to someone and they're screaming in your face about constitutional protections, you have no right to use license plate readers and track my behavior, you're crazy, right? What are you talking about? Bullets are whizzing. Has your house been hit by
There's
gunfire?
an interesting conversation about that, too, though. You go on the throughway. They know you went on the throughway. They send you a bill for getting to the gate.
They're tracking your license plate. They're sending you a bill for it. They knew who's in the car.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Literally every time you go to a convenience store, you're on that camera before you even enter the property. You're on camera already.
It is nearly impossible not to to exist in some sort of database. DMV, when you go for your driver's license. So somewhere you're in the system, right? We are local law enforcement. When I tell you I am amazed by what information we can find, imagine what the federal government has, right? That we don't even know about, right? We hear all the conspiracy theories about what they got and satellites and all this stuff, but again, I boil it down
I don't even have so much concern about that. You think about what Google knows about me.
Oh, yeah.
What Facebook knows
if you
about
look
me.
at your web browser, right? You can tell a lot from a person on a web browser.
The idea that their privacy has changed, and the conveniences that we enjoy and the lifestyle we enjoy has been made possible by all this technology, but we know more about each other, and businesses that we may not trust know more about us than we believe, and certainly local and state and federal governments know more about us than we might want to think they do, but that's the reality of the change. And for the local government to bear the burden of trying to protect something that no longer exists and sacrificing the ability to effectively police a community or protect the community from trivial lawsuits or other things, or protect people from speeding cars, not fair at this point. Just not.
You also have to look. You mentioned that $300,000 figure. What is one of the bigger nuts in Kingston, in Saugerties, I imagine New Paltz, Ulster County, is tourism. You mentioned people coming in. Today, HIT started their first day. I noticed the traffic on Mike Route and Washington Avenue. 3 individuals in horse attire in Stewart's. So now, if you, as you mentioned, if people aren't safe coming to Kingston and don't come to Kingston, what is the economic impact with the tourism dollar, the economic dollar? What is for every dollar for every dollar spent translates to seven times? How quickly does that add up to $300,000?
Well,
what if a film company, all right, has a bad encounter with their film and their shots fired? Are they going to come back to Kingston?
Well, and I add this because it's not, again, Biden, the federal government is giving the city of Kingston, as most jurisdictions, money, right? Federal relief. Invest it, right? And I understand there's infrastructure and sewer and roads. I get all that. I do. No one is going to drive their car in the city streets once somebody's vehicle gets hit by gunfire. They just won't. They won't drive.
They won't.
People are. I've gotten phone calls. I'm not letting my kid out of my house.
That's a good word that you use, because that's exactly what that is. That's an investment.
Yes,
That's an investment.
Yeah. So the last piece, I'm looking at the clock, that's going to get me hot and heavy, is we also at that last meeting approached the finance committee, who's 4 or 5 members of the Common Council, about and I'll use the term, armored vehicle. People are calling it the tank. I am now referring to it as the tank because I'm being sarcastic about it. The people that are calling it the tank have no idea what you're talking about, all right? And I'm up here. I am fed up with this ridiculousness that's out there. We have one already. It's a 1979 Peacekeeper. It was for military use. It was demilitarized, given to local agencies. We're not the first one to have it. It came from a sheriff's office up north. It is currently parked in my backyard of the headquarters of my police station. It has been parked there. It's open to anyone that wants to drive through and look at it. You can't sit in it. It's locked. It doesn't run anymore. There's a big engine issue. It's been parked there for about 1.5 years, 2 years. We use it for storage at this point. But it is essentially a truck that has armor plate on it. That's what it is. There's no guns in it. There's no turret on it. You can't shoot from it. It is a rescue and recovery vehicle. But there are community groups, activists out there that are promoting this. Tinti shouldn't have a tank. Tinti shouldn't have a tank. One, Tinti doesn't have a tank. Tinti's not asking for a tank. Tinti is asking for a recovery vehicle. That's what he's asking for. And he's not asking for a new recovery vehicle. He's asking for an upgrade to the one that he currently has. I already have one. People are concerned that I'm going to roll this out as a parade, that I'm going to be standing in the middle of this thing, waving down the parade route, right? You're all ridiculous for thinking that. And I am fed up with this because we're talking about public safety before with the cameras. We're talking about protection and safety for the officers. And not just our officers, the town of Ulster that we partner with for our emergency services team. People are shocked. What do you mean you already have one? We didn't know about that. You're right, you didn't. So I'm doing my job. Because it only rolls on those high-end tactical situations that require an armed vehicle. If I had gone, and some of the common council members have already heard me on this tirade, if I had gone in front of the finance and said to them, listen, I got a $100,000 grant, no cost to the city, 0 cost to the city, as a replacement vehicle. It's this big truck, 2 axles, an engine, and on the back there's a box that I'm going to put all my crime scene equipment in. So every time there's an issue, I can show up, roll out, detectives can do their job. Everybody at that table would have said, hey, Chief, good job, 0 cost to the city.
Not everybody.
That's a no-brainer,
yes,
right?
I understand your point, but not everyone.
But now, because this thing has half-inch armor plate, that's the only thing that makes it different. I'm getting pushback on it. I say this, what value is it? Now, the community doesn't want it because of what? the look of it.
Yeah, the perception of militarization of
right,
police
the militarization. Because, first of all, it's not a military vehicle. And two, we have never deployed our current vehicle. I know it's been down for a couple of years. Has never been deployed in a situation on a regular patrol function. We don't roll it to warrants. We haven't barricaded, pushed down a house. And that's not what this is about. It's a rescue and recovery vehicle. And for those that are saying we don't need it, you enjoy the safety and security of sitting in your house talking about that stuff without ever having to do the job of a police officer. Giving up your weekends, your holidays, your family time, and being called out. True story. I'm sitting down with my family at lunch. My kids were young at the time. We get the call for a barricaded subject in the town of Ulster. Now, we're going back when I was the commander of the SWAT team. I got up and I started to leave, and my daughter met me at the door. She was 8 years old at the time, and she said, "Daddy, why are you going? Why are you leaving us?" And I said to her, if something happened to our family, if your little brother went missing, wouldn't you like to know that you could pick up the phone and a group of people would be willing to drop what they're doing on their personal life to go help find your brother? And she said, yeah. I said, I'm one of those people. All I'm asking for is zero cost is a replacement vehicle. If you want some sort of policy in place that makes it so like don't roll it out during a parade, okay. But don't compare what's happening to other jurisdictions out there and what they decide to do as far as rolling these armored vehicles for deploying gas during protests and riots and so on. We had a protest, a well-attended, over 3,500 people protest in Kingston. And it was myself and Kyle Berardi, the chief of Ulster, that said, we don't want police presence. This is a peaceful protest. We didn't have the large, the sheriff's office MRAP. We didn't have the state police barricade vehicle. We didn't have any of it. You had a couple of officers in riot gear off to the side, outside the scope of where the protest route was. And yet, I proved to them then, and I still prove to them now, that we're not about that. And yet we're getting pushed back. I say to them, come to my office, I'll throw on a level 4 vest on you, and you tell me what's better. Because it's not right to put the officers at stake, their lives at stake, because you don't want some vehicle parked in my backyard that will only be called out during tactical situations. It's unacceptable. I ask that anyone listening and viewing call their alderman and support the need for this thing. And if you have a problem with it, call my office. You can come to my office, and I will be happy to show you what I currently have. Because what's out there is misinformation. It doesn't happen in Kingston. Don't hold us to that standard.
And that's the unfortunate part, all the misinformation, and they don't come right to the horse's mouth.
Right, exactly.
The right information. We are out of time. Chief Tinti, thank you very much for taking an hour out of your busy, hectic schedule.
Told you, it's going to catch fire.
It came close. It started to smoke a little bit. But thank you very much for taking the time, and best of luck with those two endeavors. The cameras and the tank.
Someone mentioned yesterday, I'm very passionate about this tank, right? So I am.
We'll be back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
everybody is welcome here. And it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, this is Jim Quigley, Supervisor of the Town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Rondout Savings Bank has a long history of serving local communities and maintaining a strong tradition of customer service excellence while providing each customer with the personal attention they deserve. Rondout Savings' approach to community banking puts you and the growth of your business in the front of everything they do. They're a different kind of bank and would like to tell you why, so please reach out to one of their expert business bankers for an appointment and let them show you what they can do for you. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners who have been with us. Those just joining us for the last half hour, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We have here in the studio our New York State Senator, Michelle Hinchey.
Hello. Good morning.
Red Costello, Supervisor of Town of Saugerties.
Good morning and welcome, Senator.
Thank
This
you.
is your first time in the studio with us? I think it is, right?
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were here. The first one I did was in person right around that time that we could do it.
Entering into
Yeah.
the pandemic
Yep.
a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Well, good. We're happy that you're here. We're
I'm
happy
glad to
you're
be
with us,
back.
period, but we're happy that you're here, yeah. So we were all, at the beginning of the show, we started out talking about what a great night last night was.
Great night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy too because really shouldn't say this, but the 4th of July game didn't have the ending that we all had hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
So to have such an awesome comeback for another kind of big game like that was great.
And the crowd was, there had to be several thousand people, and it was, it was.
And the fireworks were great. What an awesome show. And the kids played so well. I mean, they were hitting.
Yes, yeah. And Albany's not a weak team either. Albany's not a weak team.
No.
I like this team. Every team has its own character, but this team seems to have some fight in them. And I think when we get into the playoffs, we're going to make a run.
Should be interesting tonight, Amsterdam.
Yeah.
They're the ones.
Yeah.
They're the team we just can't get around. But I think I like this team. I think they understand the rivalry and they're motivated, and I think we're going to get the best of these young folks to try to get us a championship.
Yeah. And you've really seen them come alive too over the last month and a half or so. I mean, just from the first game. The very first game that I went to, which the first game of the season, to now, they were playing decent then too, but then I kept kind of reminding myself, these kids have never played together, right? Like this is the first time they're coming out to do that, and they still played really well, but now to see a game like last night where it was just on,
fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
They played an excellent game last night. And that was good. In front of a large crowd like that, and it was a great ending, and of course, as you mentioned, the fireworks. That was the icing on a great cake.
Yeah, well, and honoring the first responders too. I mean, I think one of the things that I love about this team also is it's so community centric, right? I mean, they honored seniors, high school seniors, in a way, to make sure that they kind of had a special moment, and to give a day specifically for our first responders who really, I mean, it's hard. It's kind of crazy now as we talk about the first time I was in studio, thinking back to those times. It feels so long ago, kind of what we just went through. But so it's important that we all kind of come back together periodically to remember the people and the heroes who really stood up for us while the rest of us were home, and working, but not putting our lives on the line.
All of us in our own way, but these folks are really on the front line of it. And, especially at the beginning when everyone was just scared and we didn't know enough if we were doing enough to protect ourselves or, what the impacts might be. Those EMT people were still going and answering those calls and doing those transports. And the nurses and the doctors were still taking care of us. And firemen were still responding and supporting those third out calls on behalf of EMTs. And, it was pretty incredible looking back.
Yeah.
And great. So it was appropriate. It was a good
Definitely.
time to reflect. And also something that should have been noted and celebrated. So it was really cool that we were able to do that last night.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And congratulations to Stallion and Kevin and everybody who had the foresight to put this together. And that list of sponsors.
Oh, we were talking about that. There had to be at least 15 and maybe 20. I glanced at the banner on the way in this morning. That is just went up, I think, yesterday. And I couldn't believe the amount of sponsors. But, it's Sorgeties. It happens time and time and time and time again. And then, of course, Bob Circusano is the only one that's allowed to pull onto the field with a motorized vehicle. Not onto the field, within the confines, the fence confines, with a motorized vehicle. He's the only
when you're
one.
handing out ice cream, I mean, it's hard to say no, right?
And then
we get right.
Sorry, he calls me and he says, I got 100 sandwiches and I got 100 cones, ice cream sandwiches. He said, do you think we need more? I says, Bob, you run out, you run out. Oh, no, I can't run out.
And so, he was like, he asked how many, and they're like, maybe like 100 kids or something. And he goes, okay, I'll bring 150. Like that's how he works, but it was great.
So the chief said 400?
Close to 400
Wow.
toys that they gave away.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Some couldn't have been better. And we were talking, there was so much happening last night. There was a dedication of the Habitat for Humanity house and a signed dedication on the pavilion in Sopas Bend Conservancy.
Yep.
And I didn't make the Habitat, but we made it to everything else. So it was a good night.
I wanted to make the Habitat event yesterday too, but we had a day up in Albany yesterday, in Voorheesville, doing a small business tour, and then we did a business award for a great community-centric business, Elemental Landscaping, up in Albany, who has really donated a lot of services to the school for landscaping the school, making the new playground, and a whole host of things in the community. So we honored him. And then we did our second community chat, which we've started. We did our first one in Highland just 2 Sundays ago, and we did one in Albany yesterday, and we have many more rolling out kind of across the district, but smaller than town halls, but we kind of inviting anybody in the public to come hear an update, legislative update, and ask some questions. And so we did that one in Albany yesterday, and then rushed down to the Stallions game, so missed the Habitat one, but excited to see the house.
Yeah, it's a pretty great story, nice family, just pretty special. It's the third one, and my understanding now is there's 3 more planned. So
it's great.
And there again, another great Sororities person, John Mullen, who is the primary developer of that property. He gets the demand and the need, and is always trying to give people an opportunity to lift themselves up. And he made 3 more properties available, so there'll be 3 more Habitat celebrations in a few months. So
That's
pretty
great.
exciting. Yeah, terrific.
We do have some really great community-centric people in our community. It's a really special place.
Yeah, it's kind of a really it's fun. It's really uplifting, and each one is a little bit different in their own way, but they all have helping folks and making Saugerties a better place in mind. And it's really great for me in my role to know if I come across someone who can need a little bit of help, there's a phone call I can make, and we probably can get them that opportunity.
Oh yeah. You'll have a team of people pushing out of the way to be
I'll do
who
it.
can
I'll
do it. Yep.
Yeah. I remember nearing Christmas, the mayor and I got a call, and we made one call, and the next thing you know, we had more stuff than we could possibly distribute. And but it was great. We helped a family that really benefited from it, and they're doing better now. And life is difficult. There's times when any one of us could need a little bit of help. So
Absolutely.
pretty special.
Yeah. I think we saw a lot of that with the pandemic, too. I mean, I talk to people all the time who, you look at food banks and food distributions, and it's like the really nice cars who are coming through, and people saying, I didn't even know this was here because I'd never been in this position before. Yep. But so you just never know what's going to happen. These kinds of things can happen to anybody at any time.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, Greg, one thing we're forgetting, and I don't know why Michelle just reminded me of, we have the Food Truck Festival tomorrow night.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Howie and Gail Post and Marjorie Block and Greg's staff and the town board, everybody's been really working hard to make that a successful event. They are anticipating a better than average crowd because we haven't done one in so long. And I think they have like 5 different vendors and some craft vendors coming as well. So it should be a good night for all.
That's great. Where is it?
Cantine Field. It begins at 4, I think, right?
Yeah, not on Cantine Field. It's at the large pavilion parking lot.
Great.
And that was that's been well attended. The ones we've done in the past, and the hope and goal of the proceeds from that are to help reconstruct Small World Playground, which we had to remove the final wooden sections this year.
Mm-hmm. This past February.
Yeah, but we've, I know we all miss it, and hopefully with this fundraising effort we'll be successful and we can replace it. But
hopefully
we're not designed to last forever, and we got 25 years out of ours.
Hopefully we're successful with that grant to New York State Parks.
Yes. Yep. So,
which I know your office replied back that they're going to forward a support letter.
We are writing a letter, yes.
I think we will be. That application is exciting because there's a move to create some handicap accessible opportunities that we don't have enough of right now. A dog park, which is something there's been a lot of community dialogue about, and I think the location that is our lead location is the right one because it's central to the village and the population centers, but it's isolated, so I don't think any barking or anything like that is going to be impactful on any neighborhood. So I think we did a good job picking that location on the west end of the trail system.
That's great.
And and it's close enough too, I think, to the resources of your headquarters. We could get water there, which is an important component, and electricity if we need to, and the camera if we need to. Hopefully we will not, but given history, we probably will.
Yes.
We probably will.
Yep.
So session's over, but I know your schedule is no better. You're busier than probably during session.
That's true. Especially when we have 5 counties. I have colleagues that have 2 towns. We have 46 towns. And so it's a lot more ground to cover. Our district covers about 2,000 square miles. So, in session time, you kind of have this more rigid schedule because you are in conference. You don't know when there may be a second conference called up. So you're kind of, you're traveling, but less so because you're really in the Capitol for conference and session, and then working with the legislative team to make sure all the bills, because we have kind of that finite amount of time to ideate the bills, do the work, get the ideas, make the amendments, talk to council, talk to our counterparts in the assembly, make sure that we're pushing it forward, getting the right stakeholders on, and then bringing it to the floor. And now that part is over, we're still working on legislation for next year so that we can have a lot to introduce, which is great, and our team's working really hard, but it gives us more time to be out in the community, which is what we want to do. But with 46 towns, that's a lot of communities. Yeah. So, but we try to be, equal places everywhere. So, as I said yesterday, we were up in Albany. Tomorrow we'll be spending some time in Greene County. Today we're taking district meetings and doing some events in Woodstock. So, we're all around. We were in Amsterdam last week. So. We try to get everywhere, and we can't make every event, but we try. And if I can't make it personally, we try to at least send someone to the team.
Amsterdam is part of your district.
Oh, yes.
How far west do you go?
St. Johnsville, Cannajohary. We have all of Montgomery County.
Wow. Now, why didn't I know that was that? I should have known it was that big.
It's easy to forget.
Apparently. Wow.
And this is an odd thing to remember, but you shared the story about the Senate rug. And that was made in Amsterdam.
Yep.
And that had to be protected. And I remember that, and that always reminds me that is part of your district.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we have a lot, but it's great because we have all different types of communities, which shows it gives us a really good kind of smattering of the entire state, right? Because we've got small cities like Kingston and Amsterdam. We have very rural components, like the hill towns and parts of Montgomery County. And then we've got really high centric tourism areas too, So we kind of have the best of everything that gives us a really good picture of what a lot of people and what a lot of our colleagues are facing too.
One thing I find interesting and challenging for you, I don't have this challenge here because I could advocate strictly for sororities, but the issues that kind of define the Hudson River communities and the issues that define the Mohawk and Schoharie communities are significantly different. Similar but very different. And I don't have to balance those challenges. You do in your shoes, but they're sometimes conflicting and sometimes competing.
Yeah, they can be, but there's also a lot of issues across the board, that we want to solve. I'll talk about one briefly, sticking on the first responders theme too. We have a bill that passed both the Senate and the Assembly, and we're waiting for a signature from the governor. But it's basically about healthcare equity. We have New York State is the only state in the country that doesn't allow our air ambulance paramedics to carry, distribute, or transfuse blood. And if you are in really anywhere, if you're in a car accident, if you're in a farming accident, and you need a helicopter, right? We have counties, like Greene County doesn't even have a hospital in the entire county. And so it could take, and depending on where you need to go, anywhere within our district, it could take you over an hour. And so, a helicopter isn't good to be called, a lot of times. And if you need a blood transfusion to save your life, right now, if a New York State air ambulance is called, they can't do it. There's a story from just outside Binghamton. A man named Travis, he's in his 30s, 2 young daughters. He's a farmer, and he got into a farming accident. He ended up losing both of his legs, and needed a blood transfusion on the spot. And when they called the paramedics, thankfully, the New York helicopter was in the middle of a hospital transfer, and so they couldn't come. And so the backup, he was close enough to the Pennsylvania border, the backup came, and they gave him a blood transfusion, and he survived.
Oh, wow, that was a weird twist of fate.
Yes.
Had the New York one arrived, they couldn't have done the blood.
And he was in the field for a decent amount of time before anyone found him. Like, he needed the transfusion.
Situation. Oh, wow.
And now...
I wonder what the legacy of that is. Why that?
What is the rationale?
We think it's just an archaic law. There's a lot of upstate issues. It goes to really what we ran on of needing upstate voices at the table. This is something that, of course, our downstate counterparts or even our more urban counterparts in Syracuse and Rochester don't necessarily think about because they have medical hubs. But for the rest of us, we don't. And we think it's just kind of an archaic law that hasn't been changed. And so we did that. We wrote a bill worked with a bill and refined a bill to make it so that New York was kind of brought in to the 21st century, and that we have another component of healthcare equity across upstate New York. And so now we're just waiting, the way that...
So that did make it through both houses?
It did.
So that's likely to become laws. It
is.
I imagine the governor will get to it at some point this summer.
We think so. And, we're hearing some really good things about it. The way that process works, just for anyone listening, because it's kind of unique, is we'll pass the legislation, but then the governor has to request the bills come up for signature. So we don't send them to him. He has to request them. And in this past session, we passed over 800 bills. We had a very productive session. And so, his team is monitoring them. It's not like all of a sudden he has to sit down and go through 800. They're tracking them, but they have to kind of siphon through that and pick which ones they're calling up when. So, that's why we do press on these bills after they're passed, to try to put pressure on him to call them, to show which ones are important, and to hopefully encourage the community, if they hear about a bill that they want signed into law, they can also email the governor. They can call the governor's office and show that there's broad-based support for it so that he can sign it quicker. Because the sooner that he signs this bill specifically and many others, the sooner it can start to be enacted.
Imagine there's a filtering system in the executive office to call up bills and have bills that are ripe, so to speak, for signature, and then the ones that may be a little bit more controversial have opportunity to vet those and figure out the stakeholders' positions and all the rest.
Right. And, I think for some of those, they're kind of monitoring it as they go because we talk to all the stakeholders. So we know which bills are controversial. For instance, we have a bill to help build out broadband in more rural communities, which the utility companies hated. And they made a point of making sure everybody knows. And so the governor's office knows about that bill, but that bill also passed both houses, and it's a good bill. People need internet service. So
I applaud you guys for that. That's been something we've worked on, and we have that problem in Sorgerties, but other communities have that problem even deeper than we do, and that's a vital component to a successful society at this point.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's effectively a utility, right? I mean, people are expected to have it, and if you don't, you fall behind.
Yeah.
You're starting from a severe disadvantage.
That's one lesson from the pandemic that became abundantly clear. We expected our children to be able to attend class from their computer at home, and if you didn't have a reliable internet connection, that's impossible. And the town has a very good internet connection, and there was occasions even when the connection that we use wasn't sufficient enough to broadcast our meeting in an effective way. That says a lot.
Yeah. Well, I have to applaud you guys, too, because the Wi-Fi at Cantine Field is amazing. Yeah. And that's such a great community resource. We want everyone to be able to access that from their homes, right, to not have to go and sit in a car. But we saw that, and libraries became a really popular place for people with kids and families to go so they could do their schoolwork. But to have that at Cantine kind of right in the center, in such a big place, ample parking is really great. I'm sure a lot of people used it.
It took us a while, but it's all, the last leg was over to the Greco Senior Citizen Center.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fiber.
I've taken Zoom calls from the Senior Citizen Center when we were doing a food distribution. We had a Senate training that I had to do, and I sat out there with my laptop and tried to run in between food distribution and training courses. So I've used it.
That's been that was a long time project.
Well, you stop and think. There's 127 acres. Obviously that includes the trails. But it comes in at the ice arena, and then we just started making our
advanced connections
down to the southern end of the complex. And last year was the last year or 2 years ago now.
It was last year at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, the last fall we got over to the Greco Center.
Talk about
timing. That was delayed by the fire. Because we would probably have made that connection sooner had we not had the
year
fire.
Before.
Because that damaged the head of where all
the
fiber connected. And then we had to make that repair. And obviously that was a priority, but that delayed the connection to the senior center, which I was reminded of by a couple of the seniors because we promised it.
Yeah.
But it's there now. It's working great.
So was I, including the president.
Yeah.
But you got it.
We got it.
We got it.
We have it, and it works amazing, and it's something I wish we did have sooner, but we did the best we could getting it there, and it's there. And,
the fact also too, with the exception of our own IT that we have already under contract, we didn't contract any of that out. That was all strictly done, the entire thing, from the time it came in off the street at the ice arena, all the way down. Everything was done in-house just to save contracting out, prevailing wage. That gets to be very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So one of the foresights that Greg and the staff had was they would install these pipes to nowhere underneath the road surfaces. So those are there awaiting, and they're sleeves. So now when
Smart.
we did smart. So now when we had to go under the road, we were able to find those pipes to nowhere and use those as a conduit to get fiber and lighting and all the other things that we've done over the years over the blacktop without digging it.
Smart. It's great to hear that because we're actually working on some legislation with the transportation chair, Senator Kennedy, to incentivize and encourage communities to do exactly that. So you're ahead of the curve, because we want to make it kind of a dig once.
Since probably the 90s, I've been called nuts, crazy. Well, I am nuts. I am crazy. But I remember we put in a dozen spare conduit runs out of the chiller building over to Rob's office in the ice arena, the admissions, and I think there's 2 spare at this time.
Wow.
When we did the fiber runs, we ran either 4 or 5 additional spares. Same way with the lighting on Cantine. So, for example, we're hoping to get a video board. That's going to require cable to be pulled there's going to be no excavation whatsoever.
It's amazing.
And every 100, 150 feet, there's a pull box, so there's no issue with that. And it has saved us a lot of expense in tearing up blacktop roads, and the fiber one was a very, very good example. Yeah.
Also, and it's smart to be thinking the way you folks are at the Senate, because when you excavate the road and you open it up, to lay that pipe next to whatever stormwater sewer or whatever doesn't really exponentially change the cost. The conduit pipes are comparatively very cheap, and going down the road, if you only use it once, the savings is exponential because now you don't have to go dig up a road that was just repaired, and that it cuts the useful life of that road in half at least.
Right. Well, it saves money. It saves people the trouble of more construction, right, of trying to get to work, possible potholes, all that kind of thing. It's really important. And so, visionary, thank you for having that foresight when so many people didn't, because we're still dealing with a lot of communities that haven't done that and just have roads kind of ripped up all the time as we're going for more infrastructure or water infrastructure issues. We're trying to make it easier for people to streamline that process so we can save money.
So one of the relevant topics that we haven't touched at all, and you only got like a minute to do it, stormwater. I know you're getting calls from all the municipalities. We're all struggling with that. It's been a challenge for you, and I imagine, especially in the mountain communities, that you've experienced some severe erosion.
Yeah, this is something that we think about and we talk about a lot, is we need to build better infrastructure, help our communities with the infrastructure for storms like the ones that we've seen and the rains like we've been seeing over the last couple of days. And, I always think back to the winter storm, the Christmas storm we had last year and what that did to so many of our communities and roads, right? We have to be insulating our infrastructure for this kind of weather. We just have to. We're becoming behind the times in doing it. And so we at a state level have to be helping you get there. So it's something that we're thinking a lot about.
And it's unfortunate, the systems are antiquated. They were not built for the type of weather that we've been experiencing recently. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to change. I think it's a result of climate change. And if anything, it's going to continue.
Yep.
Senator Michelle Hinchey, thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy day to join us here in the studio. Always great. We got to get you on for an hour somewhere.
Thank you. I know we do. Can I plug one Saugerties event really quickly?
Real quick.
We're doing a Narcan training at Mirabella's on August 6th in partnership with Samadhi. The opioid epidemic is a crisis, and so we've been doing these trainings around, and so we are holding one in Saugerties on August 6th.
Great. Good. Okay. Thank you, Fred Costello. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, listeners. We'll be back next week.